Okay, everybody, I'm joined today by Brandon Gamebred Penton, a name known all throughout the Gulf Coast. I want to list off some of his accomplishments with the promotion really quickly. He has 12 fights under the Southern Hand Slugfest banner, including 24 rounds, seven different tournaments. He's a two times bronze winner, a one-time knockout of the night winner, and he has fought his way back to the top 20 in the rankings, ranked number 15 out of 276 fighters all time. He's also in a three-way tie for most lightweight knockouts in the promotion's history with his five knockouts. That's Brandon Gamebred Penton from Picayune. Brandon, how you doing, brother? Thank you for your time, man.
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome, brother. Yeah, man. Hey, I wanted to get right into this. What was like your earliest memory? Take me back to the origin of like what captivated you about fighting and just sparked that interest in you as a kid, or what was it? Not even necessarily just competing, just getting you even paying attention to it remotely.
Well, I introduced you to my cousin Nick Baxter at the last event.
Yep.
Man, we grew up together. We were close. That's my first cousin. So we were always out there being rough, wrestling and everything, watching UFC when it came out. So I always got asked in school and by my dad and everything, what do you want to be when you want to grow up? It was always a UFC fighter or a football player. Well,
Sure.
I never got put in football, so I started fighting on my own. And then leading up to it, street fights wasn't going to cut it no more. So randomly came across that post on Facebook, fighters wanted, no professionals allowed. So
Yeah.
I was like, man, what do I got to do to get into this?
Yeah.
Wound up seeing PJ on the highlight reels from the classic. I was like, oh, that's it. Let me message him because you originally had told me the weight class was full. I believe somebody might have dropped out or something.
Always.
And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I want in there. Let me in there. I thought
Yeah.
it was going to be easy. Nope. I was definitely
Yeah.
tested and proved wrong.
Yeah, that was good stuff. PJ fought in our first event at the Coliseum about 3 years ago, and I knew that was your cousin. He told me about you, and they all sign up, but then they start dropping like flies. And you were ready. You answered the call. You got your foot in the door, and yeah, so that's interesting, man. So yeah, that street fighting thing, it's frowned upon in society, isn't it? You got to be careful out there. So
Oh yeah.
you know.
Last couple times a street fight happened, it wound up with somebody trying to go get a gun, and I was like, yeah, it's not worth all that.
Yeah, that's what people when they tell stories or something like that, especially these days, stuff elevates. I even saw
Wait,
stuff just in boxing gyms growing up, like a bad sparring deal would go down. That dude would come back with his cousin and baseball bats, and there'd
yeah,
always be some BS at these gyms, or it was ongoing, man. It never, you know what I'm saying? So you don't just hit somebody and it stops from there. There's other shit that
no,
happens. So you just
watch your
gotta
back
know.
at that point.
And you're at a totally different stage in life. You're a man, you have kids, you have a wife. That's a totally different stage in life. So,
Oh yeah,
um,
that's what really did it for me. I realized that the street fights wasn't going to cut it.
yeah,
Got a wife and two kids at the house. Got to figure out something else. I still
yeah,
had the urge to want to fight, so that's why I was glad I found this.
yeah. It's a great way for men to scratch that itch and test themselves in many ways. So, what professional fighters have you taken inspiration from, man? Somebody you saw on screen, whether it's old school or recent.
Man, if I'm talking about like back in the day, I want to say Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, just drop the head and throw bombs. That's how they all used to do it. Chuck was dangerous coming forwards or going backwards. It didn't matter.
Yep. Yeah, Chuck
That's
had that
really
big.
about it. Growing up and watching them.
Yeah. Yeah. Chuck was so mainstream and he was so marketable. The UFC needed a guy like that early on. He's got a mohawk and he's got Chinese tattoos on his head and he's wearing icicle shorts and a nasty right hand. And he was always kill or be killed. So always a fan friendly that guy there. So speaking of pro fighters, man, early on, people get it now, but I always list the nicknames of all the fighters that are competing and stuff like that. Dude, the amount of messages I used to get when they would see Gamebred, just people, casual people. You gonna
Yeah.
let Jorge Masvidal fight in this, man?
Now, see, that's why I almost didn't pick that nickname. If
Yeah.
you remember, when you first asked me if I had a fight nickname, I said, no, just Brandon Penton.
Yep.
And then a couple days later, I was like, look, if nobody's on your roster with Gamebred, I'll do that if that's fine.
That's right.
And I've been set with it ever since. And it fits me, I believe.
Yeah. So talk to me about that. About I know nothing about this. Chickens and roosters or anything like that. Is that the link to Gamebred? What's that link there?
To an extent, I love my roosters. I got plenty of them. And the way I see it is their game. And when it comes down to it, they're going to fight till their last breath. And I believe that that's something you can look up to. Being that they're willing to do something like that, why wouldn't you? So go out there and give it your all. And like Roy Jones Jr. said, he learns a lot of his fighting styles from watching his roosters back in the day.
Yep.
One of them's going to have that dominant pecking order, and you're going to figure that out quick.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say that famously. Roy Jones Jr. always said watching his Roosters fight and stuff like that, he learned a lot of moves and tactics and maneuvers from them, which was so unique and crazy to hear. You think of all the animals in the animal kingdom when someone starts talking about a rooster, but yeah, they're vicious and they will fight to the death.
They will.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. So you heard about Southern Hand Slugfest too. What was your mentality signing up for that thing, man? As we counted down, I messaged you. You got the spot. You knew it was going down, and you were going to step inside those ropes officially for the first time.
All I could think of was, man, this is going to be easy. I've been beating up guys all my life, this and that. And I never felt like I'd been really tested. But when I got in there, I'm not going to lie, I heard my name get called up. And then I heard Bubba Miles get called up. And I looked over there at my opponent. And I started shaking my head, smiling ear to ear. I was like, oh, yeah, I got this. I got this. Easy, easy. Go out there, this man makes me work the hardest I've had to work for any of my Slugfest fights so far.
Yeah,
He made me work.
yeah,
And I'm talking about throwing up afterwards. Couldn't even continue.
that's right. Yeah, I remember that night vividly. September 24th, 2022. You and Bubba put on a show. It's one of my favorite fights ever in the promotion's history, which is saying something. I mean, it ranks up there somewhere. But yeah, you got baptized by fire, and Bubba's the guy you look at, and you talk about don't judge a book by its cover. That guy
The
fights with
gloves covered half of his arm.
the shortest reach, but he's an animal. And yeah, y'all's stylistic matchup was awesome and perfect for you. And I'll always remember that fight. And big crowd, a lot of entertainment, and so yeah, it did eliminate you, man. I wanted to talk to you about that. Me and you know this, but this anybody who doesn't know, you know. You fought in Southern Hand Slickfest 2 and you fought Bubba Miles, and then you returned. You couldn't continue that night. You fought Tristan Andorf at Southern Hand Slugfest 3. You were winning, but you couldn't get deep into brackets. You kept having to drop out. What was the problem? Was it your lungs? Was it you just couldn't? What was it?
Man, off the jump, it's the cardio. Cardio was horrible, not gonna lie. Didn't think I needed to train as much as I really needed to. Now I believe my cardio is 10 times better than what it was when I signed up for that first and second event.
Mhm.
But in the back of my head, it was always the thought of that brain surgery. Just worried about what could happen. I kind of had to let go of that to an extent to be able to push myself to go further into the brackets. But that's mainly it, the being able to breathe at first, and then just in the back of my head, like, man, what if I get that one blow, that one lick? But I mean, here I am now. I've done took many of them, and I'll feed them right back to you if I got to.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I catch you first.
Yeah, and I watched you, get over that big mental barrier. And when me and you talked in that time period, when you're thinking about stopping fighting, I saw a lot of potential in you, but it was more mental than physical because you can get in shape and you can get your cardio up, but you're going to get hit in this. You're going to
Yeah,
get hit. No, nobody gets out free.
no
And
doubt about it.
yeah, so watching you evolve, I really saw you take that step forward in your development between Southern Hand Slickfest 3 and 4, and that was that mental barrier. And I also talked to you about going from a street fighter to stepping in those ropes to wanting to look your best inside those ropes. So one thing I really saw in you the development was taking it seriously. And I remember me and you we talked briefly about part-time fighters get hurt, brother. They get hurt.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you got one foot in and one foot out. You're gonna
you
meet a
can't play this stuff. You
well,
can't play it like it's a game.
yeah, you're going to meet a full-time fighter and then he's got more hours than you. It's going to show.
Oh
So,
yeah,
and I knew because the bell had been rung and it was growing so rapidly, the competition was going to get better and better. So what I liked about you is at that moment, you could have taken a step back or taken a step forward. You could have got passed up by the game or evolved with it. And I watched you
yeah.
evolve, man. And going into that next tournament, you got a good win against Ben Westmoreland, and then you fought Jason Moss, who made it to the finals in the
Yeah.
quarterfinals there. So that was a good breakthrough moment for you. I was real proud of you watching that, man. That was a big deal. And what was that just relief seeing it all the way through, man, and finishing all the
It
way through that
was
time?
it was definitely a big moment for me just to say that I did at least make it to my second fight. I didn't win. Jason was tough. He caught me with a flurry of punches that wound up taking me down. But I was feeding some good ones to him. I'll give it to him though. He was tough. He ate everything I threw at him and caught me with everything right back.
Yep.
But yes, most definitely, it was great, that feeling of just pushing forward after winning my first fight and then not continuing 2 times, 3 times in a row. Maybe I don't remember exactly. It was 2 or 3,
Two.
but I was stopping myself from going. It was that mental barrier that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and it was like I said, it was great seeing you see it all the way through. And you know, really after that, you became one of my most active fighters on the roster. You fought in events 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, and 9, meaning you fought in 6 out of 8 tournaments. That's a hell of a stretch. I'm throwing these every 6 to 8
If I
weeks.
could have helped it, I wouldn't have missed those other ones either.
Well, one, I think you were in Atlanta or something like that. You had
I
a
was at
trip
my
you were on.
wife's job convention.
That's right. And I knew it killed you missing that one. So,
Yeah.
one of the most active fighters on the entire Southern Hand Slugfest roster for a while there, and you competed in all those. And I watched you get better and better. I remember Southern Hand Slugfest 6, where Anton got hurt. You did what you had to
Yeah.
do, and you won the fight. You got your hand raised, and then what you did to Darius, who had good amateur boxing. It was just these little levels, man. There's these little levels in fighting where you see how guys handle certain situations. So
Yeah.
that was good to see you break through. What do you remember about that event, man? At the Biloxi Civic Center. Talk to me about that.
It was crazy, honestly. The whole situation with getting called out by Antoine for the first round.
Yeah.
Uh, he did it on a public post that he was making about me with my previous fight. So it kind of got to me a little bit. So I was like, hey, if it's possible, make this happen. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why. He's got problems with one of my buddies. I don't even know him, but make it happen. So then leading up to it, knowing that I had somebody there wanting to fight me, coming at me specifically, it was just burned inside me a little bit different. So we got there, and that 10-second finish, I mean, man, it looks great on the list every time you post it.
Sure.
But knowing deep down inside, exactly like I told you right after the bell got rung when the fight was called off, I told you, I mean, I'm glad I won, but it wasn't supposed to be like this.
Sure. Yeah.
So leading up to that, I was like, man, I mean, easy win. I'm going into the second round full energy.
Fresh.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. First time making it into the second round without having to worry about being out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
Got in there. I think my jab was probably the most dominant thing against Darius. I wound up seeing him folding up every time I'd pop him with it. And at that point, I pushed him into the corner. I was able to get the first round finish then also. Going into that third round, it felt great. First time making it to the semifinals, I believe.
Yep.
Chad Craig was my opponent. We did a coin flip
That's right.
between me, him, and Rugrat Williams.
That's right. Yeah, I had 3 people left in the semifinals, and odd numbers happen. Guys drop out of brackets. We get in buys. People are fighting and not following through. So we had to flip a coin, and you drew Chad. Y'all were both 2-0 at the time,
Yep.
and I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, well, I wound up getting Chad. It didn't matter to me at that point. I knew I had to fight one way or another, so I was just finding out who it was going to be. I didn't care. In my head, I was feeling good. I was in good shape. Anybody could have got it that night. I was ready. And going into the third round, I guess I had in my head, oh, got to get him out of there in the first round. Got to get him out of there quick. I just finished the other guys in the first round. Chased Chad all around the ring in the first round, gassed myself out, had him on the end of every single one of my punches. I might have caught him with a couple clean ones, but
Sure.
they weren't pretty.
Yep.
And then leading into the second round, gassed out, couldn't do nothing about it, still tried to keep that forward pressure, and he wound up countering off of it and capitalizing.
Right. Yeah, and not the way you want the night to end, but still a successful outing, going 2-1 with 2 knockouts, 2 stoppages. That was your first bronze finish ever, and yeah, man, you're getting deeper and deeper into the ocean. That's what happens. You're going to fight tougher guys, and you're evolving and leveling up, man. But yeah, as far as the 10-second finish, man, look. I don't script the fights. They happen. The opening bell rings, and that's what my timekeeper tells me, which is the official timekeeper. Sometimes people are like, man, that one's kind of, I go, look, man, what does that go down as in any form of the matter? Pro boxing, UFC. I've seen guys check kicks in MMA and their leg folds up underneath them on the first couple of
Yeah.
exchange. That's a TKO. That's a TKO in every realm of fighting, So Brandon Penton holds the fastest finish, 512 different fights. Brandon Penton holds the fastest finish, and Chase Wolfer's just 1 second behind you with an 11-second finish. But Brandon had a 10-second finish. So, but you did what you had to do, man. I know that's not the way you wanted to win that fight, especially because there was a little bit of bad blood behind it. But
Oh yeah.
you know, hey man, that's the game. You know,
I talk to Chase every time I see him about his knockout.
got him by a second. Those are funny, man. When you look at records and stuff like that, sometimes it depends on how quickly the ref gets in there.
Yeah.
And so there's a
He
lot
could
of
try to start a
variables.
count.
Sure, man. Yeah. Some refs will, they got a longer leash than other refs. When does he stop a count? When does he actually wave his arms and call that bout off? So there's a lot of variables in it, but you just do what you can do and handle what control what you can control. So no, but that's an accomplishment within itself. So yeah, man, again, I'm just watching you level up over the years and stuff like that. So, you had a couple of tournaments, a little stretch there where things weren't going your way. You're drawing tough names. I mean, you fought Moses Sanders before really no one knew who he was yet. And,
Yeah, I didn't expect it.
so I knew he was this tough kid from Florida with some kickboxing and some MMA experience. But yeah, so you fought good names. You still grow from those fights. You know that. You
Oh
in there
yeah.
with high level of competition, you grow from those fights. So you were building up and but you've really developed yourself over the months and years, man. So let's get into Southern Hand Slugfest 13 real quick, which took place December 20th, just a little over a month ago. And you were back at it, man. You sat out for 9 months and you were in there.
It
You
was
get off to the
tough.
races and you fight Jax Rogers. Talk to me about that, just the timing and the feeling of being back in there, getting the pace of them 1 minute rounds again. Talk to me about that.
It was great being back. I talked to you at every event telling you I couldn't wait to be back. Southern Hand Slugfest is my home. It's where I started. It's where I'll end at. Whenever you tell me I can't fight no more, I'm going to try to sneak my way in there and wrap some hands or do something. I want to be a part of it some way, one way
Always.
or another. But leading into that event, coming back, you mentioned it in the Gold Club, top five fights of mine. That 3 fight loss streak started with Chad Craig.
That's right.
I lost that night, came back. I want to say I drew Moses in my next event. Wound up getting knocked out by him in the second round, I think it was.
Which was Moses's debut tournament.
Yeah,
Yep.
nobody expected what he was going to do. Nobody knew.
Yeah. And
Except
Moses
the people
didn't
that
win the
came
whole
with
thing
him.
that night, by the way. Just want to throw that out
No,
on the
that was
record.
one of the
Yep.
first ones, or one of the only ones he didn't win the
That's
whole
right.
thing, I feel like.
Yep.
But I wound up drawing him. That was my second loss. And then I got Jake Mooney.
Mhm.
And I believe I was still dealing with a broken nose at the time. I was in the corner talking to Fred, telling him that I just couldn't breathe.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, Hughes came over there and he done his job. He was protecting the fighters,
Right.
called the fight off. Props to Jake though. He hits hard. I dropped him in the first 10 seconds and he popped right back up like nobody would have expected it. I didn't think he was going to get back up from it.
Yeah.
As soon as he touched his knees, he got up. But anyways, going on past that, just getting over that loss. That was my biggest thing. There was no way I could come back after building up as much hype as I could think of around my name of me coming back. Just trying to make all the posts I can, letting everybody know, trying to get all my people to come.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got that first round knockout, I was walking back to my corner thinking he was going to stand up.
Yeah.
When I got that first round knockout, it felt great to just know that I was back in the winner's circle over here at Slugfest.
Yep.
He was tough though. He made me push the pressure. He came out there popping my head back quick.
Yeah, it was a fun, Jax ducks his head and throws big overhands. You got if you stand
That's
in front
when
of
I started
Jax.
catching him with some uppercuts. I noticed the pattern.
Yep. Yeah, Jax is tough, man. He's went rounds with some guys. I could list off a couple of names where he's made it to second, third, deep into fights with guys and tested them, and he stood in there. So, yeah, it was a good win for you. I saw the emotion, getting over that mental hurdle. So that was big. Not only was it knockout, it was knockout of the night. A beautiful overhand right, timed it over the jab perfectly, and that awarded you the best lightweight knockout of the night. So you took a little hardware home also.
Long time coming. I've been
Yeah,
needing
no
some of
doubt,
that.
huh? Something for the collection, man. So you advance to the quarterfinals. You're no stranger to that. You've been here before. What do you remember about the Michael Fitzhugh fight Mike's a good guy. That was his debut tournament. What do you remember about him?
I'm just looking at him and I'm thinking he looks like he's short, but he's stocky. He looks like he's gonna have a little bit of power behind his punches. So I was a little bit worried about that at first. You got to watch out for them short guys. I remember that with Bubba.
Yep.
But another thing in the back of my head was I remember seeing him on Facebook whenever fighters share the post with 9 times out of 10, unless they're just a diehard supporter, that person's in the bracket.
That's right.
So I kind of scoped in on that,
Sure.
and I found him, and I kind of noticed that he's with Megawatts. That's his
Yep.
guy.
Yep. That's his
So
boy.
I figured they probably trained together. So I was kind of looking for the same style. I was looking for Megawatts Jr. to walk out pretty much whenever he started swinging. I was looking for that style, but he just didn't have the pressure on him that I was expecting. And I believe I was able to conserve my gas tank a little bit because of that, because I was able to keep the distance a little bit more.
Mhm.
But then I want to say second, maybe third round, he stabbed down to the body and caught one of my ribs. That right there was the best lick he hit on me because it wound up dragging into the third fight of mine,
Yep.
and it showed. It
Yep.
slowed me down.
Yeah. And you know what you said there, man, is something I just want to say this to everyone. You know this. I'm not saying this to you. Uh the part of the element of people, underestimate about Southern Hand Slugfest is the carryover from fight to fight. Like if you're involved
Yeah,
in a war in your first fight, sometimes I'll post a video of somebody and maybe they're not the most technical guy or the hardest hitter in the world, something like that. I get these messages, man, like, oh man, I would kill that guy. People who have never signed up, or I'm like, dude, you can sign up. I'm not, no one, it's America, brother. You can sign up. You can sign up. I'll get you in there. But
yeah.
like, okay, you gotta beat that guy and then three more guys. And then are
They
you
get
fresh?
better every round.
Yeah, they get better every round. Are you fresh heading into that fight? How did that go? So there's a whole storyline there. So sometimes guys, yeah, if you handpick certain guys off the roster, you're pretty confident you're going to have a good night in a one-on-one fight, no doubt about it. So
Oh yeah,
it's they just don't understand the DNA of it. They find out, and guys, they're limping into the semifinals or the finals. I'm doing whatever I can to buy you guys as much time as possible, an hour
yeah.
plus if I can. And so that's it's just that's part of the DNA of it.
Oh yeah.
I want those elements to emerge, to see who can. I've had some real crafty boxers. They didn't recover. They didn't really recover in the 1 minute pace, and they just never quite caught their wind again. And it showed in the quarterfinals. So that's part of the DNA. So, like you said, Fitzhugh hit you with a good body shot, and that carried over. You got the win there. And that was a good win for you. Mike's a well-schooled guy and a tough guy, so that's a good quality win for you. You advance. Here we are again. You're in the semifinals. What's going through your mind, man? You got to be going back to your people, going, "Damn, I'm in the final four of this thing again. This might be my night."
I
Uh,
felt like it was. I felt
yeah.
like it was going to be my night. We talked about it the whole way there. We talked about it the whole time we were there, and everything was just falling out perfect.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, this is going to be it.
Yep.
And then I got called up. Jay comes tapping me on the shoulder. Hey, buddy, it's me and you. I was like, man, I knew it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we shook hands, got head geared up, and went in there and did our thing.
Yeah, yeah. And so Jay Marceau, we'll mention him. First of all, a guy you're familiar with. You had your
Yeah.
MMA title fight against him and won in spectacular fashion. A great fight. So little fun rivalry there, a lot of respect. But a guy you had seen before and recently. So y'all are entering the final four. Talk to me about that fight. You're both 2-0 on the night. Jay's got a lot of experience, a lot of amateur boxing and stuff like that. Well-schooled guy, very technical, and a dog when he needs to be. So you
Yeah.
knew you were going to be in for it. So talk to me about that fight. It's very competitive, back and forth fight. Talk to me about that.
Well, whenever I knew I was matched into Jay, I knew I was going to have to work for it. He ain't no pushover. So, but going into it, I had a lot of confidence because, like you had said, I just fought him back in the MMA fight. I know that's not boxing, but still, just having the win over him had my head boosted up that I was going to do good. It was my night already. We already said that,
Yep.
and going into it, I felt like I was doing good, but he just kept catching me with that overhand right. Just kept popping me with that overhand right, and I should have known it was coming. Same thing happened in my MMA fight. Uh, some things are just a bad habit, and I'm working on overcoming that. Hopefully, I can get my left hand picked up a little bit higher for this.
Sure.
But I mean, it was just back and forth, back and forth. I felt like I'd feed him a good one, pop his head back. Next thing you know, he's catching me. He'd get me up against the ropes. I'd circle out, and he's still on me. He's gonna be on you. He's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
good fight. I liked it. I was glad to have lost to someone that I have a background with and someone that I had so much respect for,
Yeah.
rather than just some random person that I don't even know. Because then it just kind of gets to me. I know it's a sport. I'm always a good sport when it comes to this, but losing to some guy you don't even know doesn't sit as well as losing to somebody that you can at least talk to afterwards and have a background with.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about that. And also the eventual champion. If you lose to anybody,
Yeah,
you
that
always
too.
tell them that you better go win this thing because I want to lose to the champ.
Yeah,
So he went on to take the gold. So that was a great fight, a very high volume fight, a lot of punches in 3 minutes between you two. I
yeah.
went back and watched it the other day, actually. So very fun fight. Who knows? It could happen again. But anyways, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that, man. You've always walked a really good balance. I haven't said this compliment to too many people. I think a lot of guys get it right and some don't, but it's a tricky thin line of I really like and respect highly competitive, but not okay with losing.
Yeah.
But not highly competitive, not okay with losing, but it never it never overflows into sportsmanship.
Exactly.
You know what I mean by that? So
Yeah.
some guys are not okay with losing. You can see it on their sportsmanship. They barely want to dap the guy up. And on the other side, which is very strange to me, I've seen it over and over like that. Body language, terminology when I talk to him afterwards, a little too cool with losing. A little too
Yeah.
cool with losing. So I like that balance of
I,
highly competitive, but it doesn't get into your sportsmanship. You want to talk to me about that, man? That's something where, you like PJ, you wear your emotions on your sleeve, and that's a strength. I like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
And how you mentioned somebody just being okay with losing too much. You've seen me at multiple events. I've tried to help Jesse Penton many times as I could. That guy there is just too okay with losing. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to put any effort in. And that's just the first thing that popped into my head whenever you mentioned that was him, because I went out of my way so many times to try to help out and make him better
Yep.
and try to provide cornermen and everything I could for him.
You gave him a ride to one of my tournaments.
I gave him a ride to multiple of them. A
Yep.
lot of the fights he didn't make it to if he didn't ride with me.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then it just bit me in the long run. So
Yep.
I try to still help people out, but you definitely got to watch out for the people that's just in it to try to get that 3 minutes of fame, that 1 minute of fame, just to say they did it, because they're out there and they'll drag you down if you let them.
Yeah. Yeah. You are an algorithm of people you surround yourself with and all that. And that, the just it is an accomplishment. I've echoed this a lot of times. It is an accomplishment just stepping in the ring within itself.
Yeah,
That's its own battle, especially a debut guy. It's a big deal, man. I had a guy last event, Dustin Lapoma. He was a heavyweight. I got a lot of experience doing this. I was like, I feel like this guy's going to no show. He had all the signs. I've been dealing
yeah.
with thousands of fighters like that. He showed up. He was taking a lot of deep breaths. He was real nervous. That guy, he's taking a chance. He has no fighting experience. He had just started training. He wanted to test himself. He stepped in there. That's a win for him showing up, stepping in those ropes in his debut tournament. That guy needs that mentally, and he did it.
Yeah.
He followed through. He got to a decision. He went all 3 rounds. Messaged me right after. He had the time of his life. So that
Oh yeah.
that's that's not who I'm talking about. I'm not talking that guy. Now, as he shows up for more tournaments, I
Yeah.
expect him to want to get better and evolve and grow and all that. But that's a win for that guy. But guys who are just too cool with losing. I've seen it so many times, man, where they're and again, I'm not talking about sportsmanship. I'm not talking about sportsmanship because you know how big I am on that.
Yeah.
Um, so you've always done a really good job balancing that out, man. And I know how bad you wanted it back in December, and that's what I like to see. I like to see that passion because you got to be passionate about the fight game, man. There's a lot of other stuff you can do. So I've always like really respected your passion for fighting and stuff like that, man. So you've walked a great balance in that regard. Um, so
I
uh,
burst out in tears after I lost that fight against Jay, and then every time I realized I was crying, it made me cry even more because I was getting mad.
Yeah, you little
All right.
crybaby like PJ, little
I
crybaby.
can't help that. It runs in the blood, I guess.
That's right, man. Okay, so now you're entering your eighth tournament, which is crazy to say out loud. I think that's something only four other fighters have done, gotten to that point. On March 1st, we're about 3.5 weeks out from showtime. Has anything changed about your preparation? You got a lot of experience in this now. I think you, Rugrat, Moses, y'all gonna be the most experienced guys in this bracket here. Has anything changed about your preparation? Anything in specific, man, going into this one and your mentality towards it?
I think I'm not going to worry about trying to be the one of the heaviest guys in my weight class. I think I'm just going to focus on being in the best shape that I possibly can be in and treat it as if I'm getting ready for another MMA fight. Take it full on serious. Doesn't matter. I know the headgear kind of at first I think that's what was making me not take it so serious was the headgear, but I've never boxed before. I didn't know nothing about that. I just know that watching on TV nobody wore the headgear. So whenever I seen the headgear, at first I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't training as hard. But like I said, over the time, I started taking it more serious, more serious, more serious.
Yep.
This time, I'm about to put everything I've got into my camp, get ready, get in the best shape I can, and I just hope that everybody else is in the best shape they can be in because I'm coming. I'm gonna have a little bit more pressure on me, a little bit more gas than what I had last time. So
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
look for the same, Brandon.
That's right. Yeah. Well, you've always, like I said, you've always taken that next step, man. So I'm excited to see you come in and, you know, you're as far as Southern Hand Slugfest goes, you're becoming the old dog on the block, man. You got, you starting to, so what I like from guys that come back is don't any of these debuts coming in, don't give them no easy night. No, that's what I always
No,
tell these guys. You make sure if they get one on you, they earned it and they know what promotion they're fighting for now. So that's why I always love bringing you guys back. So, but I know you're in it for the gold, man. You got 12 fights, so the time's ticking on your 20 fight limit with Southern Hand Slugfest. You make every opportunity count. Every fight is an opportunity, man, and it's going to be cemented. So, hey, I also got this fun fact for you. I think only you and Matt Brown, who are currently signed up for this roster, if y'all get a win on March 1st, y'all are going to be the first fighters ever to get a win in every calendar year of the promotion's history 2022, 23, 24, and 25. So that's something pretty unique. And it talks about your longevity so far, and you stand to the test of time in this. So that's pretty interesting. So talk to me about the origin of Steepwoods Fight Club, how this came about, setting a ring up in the yard and all that with your cousins, your training mates, your teammates, and developing a fight team and training consistently with the same partners and all that. Talk to me about how that formed.
well, the name comes from my farm. My farm's Steepwoods, and we just took that and I threw it on Steepwoods Fight Club because we didn't really consider ourselves a full out gym, more or less just a club of a bunch of guys getting it together, you know. So I hung up a bunch of bags and I got all my guys from work and just friends that I grew up with. If they get bored and want to come over here and they don't feel like spending the money at a gym, or if they don't have time to go over at a certain time, like just whenever you feel like it, just pull up, come over here. And then we got tired of sparring in the yard and chasing everybody around. So eventually I got out there and I set some posts in the dirt. I thought I was making it the same size, but I believe I made it 4 foot smaller than what your ring actually is that we fight in.
Yeah.
And I don't see a problem with it. I feel like it'll make me want to stay in the center more whenever I get in your ring.
Yeah.
But getting everybody together, sometimes it's a hassle. But when we do get together, we get some good training in that I believe a lot of people would get some use out of if more people came out here.
Where are y'all at, Brandon? Y'all over in Picayune, right? Is that where y'all set up at?
Address is actually a Perkinston address, but
Okay.
you might as well say Picayune. If you make it to Picayune, I can get you here.
Sure. So, and you welcome guys coming from the outside, exchanging
I'll,
knowledge, sparring partners. You welcome all these guys. That's something you got to, sometimes there's a bubble with guys. People are a different level of open to new people coming and training with them and stuff like that, especially a fight club. A full-fledged gym is a business. That's a business. That's a whole different thing. But so y'all welcome everybody. That's good to make sure that's known that it's not so click tight. You welcome
no,
people to come train.
no, I'm 100% behind my guys. I'm gonna be there for them. I'm gonna do as much as I can for them.
Mhm.
But if let's just say someone from Slugfest 13 let's just say one of those guys hit me up, like Jax, as a matter of fact, my opening fight. I talked to him after the fight and I opened it up to him. I told him, I said, look, man, he asked me where I trained at. I told him literally in my backyard and invited him over, told him he was more than welcome to come over and get some work in, that you don't really like rematches. So unless we both make it to the finals, then we won't have to fight each other for a while. So I'm open to help him out. And I'm open to help anybody out. I mean, like I said, with Jesse, me and Antoine, before he called me out, we trained together almost every weekend. Even
Sure.
afterwards, we trained together for a while. Tried to get him ready for fights. We just helped each other out, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good, man. So what would be your advice to a debut fighter signed up for Southern Slugfest? It's Southern Slugfest 2 all over, and some kid with a blonde mullet walks up to you and he signs up, man. He's ready to go and he's real ambitious. What would be your word of advice based on your experience and everything?
Just don't let the crowd get to you. That was one of my things at first. I thought I had to do something crazy, like just go out there and get the knockout quick. That's what got to me a lot of the times. I think I've always worried about letting someone else down. Just let go of that. Don't worry about letting somebody else down. Go out there, have fun, but don't treat it like a game. They're coming over there to knock your head off. You better be ready to do the same thing.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Great advice. Solid advice. So, hey, moving away from the topic of fighting a little bit, talk to me about how you make your money, man. I know you were on a roof all day today. Y'all do the sheds and all that. What do you do? What kind of labors do you offer to your customers?
We go out there and we'll build a shed. We actually are subcontractors. So Tough Shed themselves out of Baton Rouge Airline Highway, they sell our buildings for us and prefab everything. So we do it like a puzzle. I have framed for 2.5 years, but basically we go out there, customer will show us where they want something in their yard, and we'll build it from the ground up. We do custom buildings. We have set styles that we sell. But just last week, me and my guys, Tyler Jackson, as a matter of fact, he's one of my lead guys that I have with me right now. Me and him, we did a 62 by 22-foot garage with two partition walls in it.
Mhm.
There's no telling what they're going to put in that thing.
Yeah.
We don't really deal with the customers up front. We just finish the job. We go out there and we actually do all the labor, and Tough Shed themselves deals with the business side of it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, if anybody were to get on the books with y'all, they would just contact that company. That's what they would do.
Yeah, you can look up toughshed.com and you can actually go on there and select build a quote, and you can do your whole building online without even having to talk to anybody. And
Awesome.
then they'll give you a rough quote and you'll have a price in mind before you even get on the phone talking with anybody.
Perfect, man. Speaking of that guy, Tyler Jackson, what'd you think about his performance back in December? He made it all the way to the finals.
I was proud of him. He was worrying me there for a while because I know I stuck my neck out there for him multiple times to get him on your cards. Uh, but he definitely made me proud. He's been showing me a lot backstage too, though. Used to he never would come around when I hit him up for training. It was always, oh, I'm busy. I got to do this. I got to do that. But now if I hit that guy up and I tell him, hey man, come over here and let me punch on you. Let's get some sparring in. He'll be pulling up, sliding sideways in my driveway with the gloves already on.
Yep.
He's ready.
Yep.
He's all about putting some work in and trying to get better.
Yep.
And he's one of the guys I got to watch out for when I come back on the 13th. He's got a chip on his shoulder for me. He's got to prove himself.
Yeah, yeah, and much like your trajectory, watching him evolve has been satisfying, man. I mean, Tyler was a guy who, um, he was spotty at best, not the most dependable or reliable kind of guy. I'm talking
Oh
about a
yeah,
year. I'm talking about a year and a half ago, and like everybody, he's growing and evolving and getting better. And now,
he's
pretty much,
young. He's trying.
sure, but pretty much if Tyler tells me something now, I can cash that check. I can take. He's proven that to me. So I'm glad he came back around and phenomenal performance for him. I mean, he was just getting through guy after guy. Tyler throws a lot of punches and he comes forward. I like Tyler's fighting style a lot. So
The entire time.
yeah, he does. He does, man. He throws punches. He comes forward, and that dude wants to win fights. He wants to win fights. You can tell as soon as he steps in there. So that's
Losses
awesome,
don't
man.
sit well with him.
Yeah, and a characteristic I always look for. So y'all are definitely sharpening each other over there. Steep Woods Fight Club. So Hey man, I just want to say I appreciate you and the supporter you've been of the promotion, whether you're competing or not, man. You're the total package when it comes to marketing yourself and promoting yourself, the frequency of posts, shares, notifying your people. That's a little more rare than you think. You're just you, so you don't know, but not
Yeah.
everybody's like that. And so, yeah, I appreciate the fighter you are, whether you're competing or not, man. You've been a big advocate and a great representation of the promotion as a whole, man. So, that's something I really appreciate and admire about you, man. That's not every fighter pins that down. Some good fighters shoot themselves in the foot because they don't post training videos or highlight videos
Yeah.
about themselves. And look, we're in a different era, man. 10, 15 years ago, there was no social media expectations. It was totally different now, but
Yeah.
you have been a great representation. Guys can learn a lot from you of what the modern day fire should be as far as marketing themselves and stuff like that. So, that's something I want to tell you personally. I appreciate a lot, man. So, and you know that I've told you that before, and I'm not going to stop telling you that, man. But just signing off, man. Is there anybody in particular you want to thank? Just anybody you want to shout out at all, man. I want to hear it.
First and foremost, I want to thank PJ Taylor, obviously, because I would not be here without him.
Yep.
He's went out of his way many and many a times to try to get me better. Always down to work too, just like I said with Tyler. I could call PJ and either he'd pull up here or he'd tell me to come on over there. He's got his own little gym set up. I got my own little gym set up. And I mean, really my wife. Without her, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of this.
That's right.
She's what pushes me through some of this. Leading into my last MMA fight, she was the only one out there with me running the track, trying to stay in shape,
Yep.
making sure that I was eating well every night, trying to make sure I made weight. Um, right off the top of my head, that's the two I'd really like to get that shout out today.
Yeah. 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 For sure, man. Your wife is always going to be your central pillar. Her and your kids, you know that, man. So,
Yeah.
family. When everybody else disappears, that's who's going to be there. You always
Oh,
know
yeah.
that, brother.
I
So,
have plenty of supporters. I'm not mentioning them is not downing or degrading their support.
yep.
It's just my wife and my cousin. They're on the top of right on top of my head of thinking of it.
That's right. Yeah, man. Well, as always, great talk, and I appreciate your time, man. We're 3.5 weeks away. So March 1st, 2025, Southern Hand Slugfest 14, survival of the fittest at the Jackson County Civic Center underneath the pavilion over there. So 2902 Shortcut Road, and get your tickets now. This is going to be a fun event. The ticket sales are going really well. It's going to be very packed. I like outdoor events because there's no building occupancy, so that's
Yeah.
nice. It's one less thing to think about, any kind of fire code or anything like that. So, yeah, just short and sweet. What can people expect from you, man? Tell them what to expect from you.
Like I always say, just expect some heat, expect some pressure, and I'm looking for another knockout. So I'm trying to pass up Moses and who was it, Conway?
Yeah, Brandon Conway, you and Moses are in a three-way tie right now. So,
Just they already know I'm coming. I know they're going to be there. I just hope that everybody's healthy and ready to put on a good show because, like I said, I'm trying to be stamped down in the history books of Southern Hand Slugfest one way or another.
yeah, you're making way right now, man. You're making strides and you're doing something I told you this the other day. Your kids will be proud of and you'll look back on and you ain't gonna have any regrets, man,
Yes,
especially
sir.
the way you fight. So, okay, brother. God bless, onward and upward. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
You too.
All right, brother.
Have a good one, man.
You too, bud.